Madam Speaker, I rise today because our nation continues to have blood on its hands. When will we stop valuing guns more than human life? Can anyone in this chamber look into the eyes of a parent who has lost their child to gun violence and tell them that the life of their child isn't worth meaningful action? Because I won't. You can't. But yet, here we are again. Another day, another shooting, another person killed. That's all I have.
Yeah, that brings you to 5 seconds.
I feel like I need to add something at the end.
Maxwell Frost has been practicing a version of this speech for years.
You just say community. You don't have to do group of communities.
Yeah.
One of his first jobs was as the national organizing director for March for Our Lives, working to end gun violence. He also organized for the ACLU to expand voting access for formerly incarcerated Floridians. Now he's ready for his next act as a freshman congressman from Florida.
Can't be ashy on the House floor. It's not allowed. Oh, is that it?
Yeah.
Sorry. Oh, okay.
Maybe what's more significant is that Frost, at 26, is also the first ever Gen Z member of Congress, meaning he's the first member to really know what it's like growing up with online activism and the perils of the entire internet at his fingertips.
Okay, I have to ask about your social media stuff.
Yeah.
Do you ever tweet after you've had a drink or two?
Oh, all the time. If you see me tweeting at like midnight about music or something.
I have actually, so that's why I was wondering.
Oh, yeah. Most of the time I don't regret it.
Frost isn't just a representation for the nearly 70 million young people of his generation. He's also a glimpse at Congress's future and how others like him will lead our country when they take over. I followed Frost in his first few weeks in office to see what that future might look like.
We hear a lot about how you were the first Gen Z member of Congress. What does that mean, though, in terms of policy making, in terms of how you are bringing that experience as a member of Congress?
So I don't sit at the table and go, first Gen Z member, of Congress. Let me make some Gen Z legislation, right? Like, it's not like that. It's really about just thinking about my own experiences, which are very similar. My timeline is very similar to Gen Z in this country and what we've seen and the trauma we've seen from George Floyd to Parkland to Pulse, going through what feels like more school shooting drills than fire drills, growing up in high school and middle school. And it's a culmination of all those experiences that give us a certain outlook on life. And that's what I bring when I get to the table.
The youngest member of Congress's first days in Washington looked a little different than usual. It's rare for cabinet members and big names in Congress to turn up at a freshman's swearing-in soiree, which, in this case, was a rager in a D.C. club basement. Now, Frost is getting the Vogue treatment and flying on Air Force Two for events with the vice president. But all this celebrating might be a bit premature. He's in the Democratic minority, plus he's a freshman. When it comes to Washington, that's like being a political bench warmer. Messaging is all you've got, and Frost knows it.
What do you think you can actually accomplish as a freshman in the minority?
So it's a great question. I think one is this front of defending our values and our messages. I'll be on the House Oversight Committee where it's going to be a lot of defense and a lot of defending our values and what we believe in and who we are. And even though that doesn't, materialize into an actual bill right now, what it does do is allow the American people to see that fight, that people are fighting for them.
You were an activist in this space around gun safety before you became a member of Congress. Do you think that maybe you would have had more of an impact on this issue if you had stayed in the activist space and not come to D.C.?
No, I decided to run for Congress because I believed that was the next step in my advocacy. And I wanted to take what I learned as an advocate, an organizer, an activist, and use it in the halls of Congress. And when I see my colleagues and you look at this freshman class, that's part of this movement, right? This is some of the most progressives ever elected in the history of our country in one class to the United States Congress. It's the youngest class. It's the most diverse class. It's the most working class class. So, that's really exciting to me, and it shows we're heading in the right direction. Doesn't mean we're going to pass all these bills this year and next year. No, it doesn't. But what it does mean is we're going in the right way, and I want to be a part of that.
Frost may have won his race, but otherwise it's grim times for Democrats in Florida. In the same election, Governor DeSantis crushed his opponent, and the GOP picked up 4 more congressional seats in the state. Florida's also home to former President Trump, who's doing everything he can to make it a home base for the Republican Party. For Democrats, Frost is one of the few bright spots. Why did you want to support him? What is it like seeing him around here in Orlando now?
I think it's so important as younger first-time candidates that we support one another. And candidly, in Florida, the Democratic Party is such a mess that we need to build a bench. And what better way to build a bench than these amazing young candidates right in front of you?
We're in downtown Orlando in Congressman Frost's district, and he's back for the weekend, and he is doing a community service project here at a park, planting trees, and this is the first time that he's been back in his district since he was sworn in as a member.
All right, we're out here with Jody. What are we doing, Jody?
We are planting trees
Yes, we are.
in the Lakeland community.
Tree planting is actually a pretty good metaphor for what the Democrats are trying to do in Florida. Plant some saplings like Frost in the hope that the party will grow.
Hey! How y'all doing? Good. Well, blessing to see y'all. Let's take a photo. Yeah, I'm Congressman Maxwell Frost, by the way. Yeah. So, yeah, thank you. So I'm a congressman for this area. Yeah, youngest in the country. We did that. Our community, we did that. Yeah, let's get a photo. Yeah, for sure. Let me come in here.
Frost certainly comes across as your regular, everyday guy, an image he's used to critique DC's pay-to-play politics. Most famously, he says he sank his credit score by going into debt for his campaign, so much so that he struggled to get an apartment in December.
What have you been hearing in the last few days since you've been back?
Issue-wise, we have an affordability crisis, especially with housing right now. People can't find affordable housing, and then when they do, they're getting denied. And the thing that people know me for now is that I had a hard time getting an apartment, and so we're using that story and really going to tackle that issue first.
It's certainly possible that Democrats are putting their faith in Frost as the cultivator of fertile ground in Florida. Or maybe he's just the congressman who's really into plants.
Well, we're about to have hella plants in a DC office because the office is really old. All the offices are really old, so the air is not good.
Oh.
So we're going to have a few air purifiers in every room and a lot of plants.
Okay.
Air purifier and plants.
Cleans the air.
Cleans the air, you're good. I learned that from an Airbnb I stayed in New York once.
You're a progressive Democrat in a sea of so much red in Florida. How do you view Florida politics now? Do you have hope that the Democratic Party can get it together here?
Yeah, I do. I wouldn't necessarily consider us like a red state as of yet.
Really?
I wouldn't, no. I think it was more of an anomaly than anything else. There was just very low enthusiasm for Democrats and low enthusiasm across the board. I think it was mainly a get out the vote problem. Young people being involved in politics actually really does energize older folks. It veers into the young people will save us world, which I think is not as helpful. Like it has to be all of us and shouldn't just be up to young people to save us.
We'll call this hearing to order, the first hearing of the 118th Congress for the House Committee on Oversight and Accountability.
Frost has time to perfect the art of messaging out of the majority spotlight for the next 2 years, but he's still got to hold his own against House Republicans.
We've heard a lot of hyperbole and political posturing from this committee today. I think the way that we communicate and talk about an issue is extremely important in finding the solution.
The last time a new young phenom got so much attention here, it was Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who brought millennial concerns to the House floor. So, is Frost the new AOC?
I think
You know, I've always said this about any new member of Congress is that there's no new anybody else. He's the first him. You know, it's certainly great to have a colleague that has a similar perspective and experience when it comes to age. You know, it can be kind of lonely coming in here, especially as a younger member.
Maybe what voters liked so much about Frost is how he sounds almost nothing like what we've come to expect from politicians. Only it's not clear yet how far he'll go with that reputation or how far he wants to.
Any aspirations for the White House one day?
No.
Really? That is
Can't imagine running for any, like...
pretty unusual, I feel, for a politician to say no to the thought of the White House.
Well, I mean, my goals aren't like positions, they're like things I want to do. So like if I like wake up in 4 years and I'm like, you know, Congress is good. Now it's time to go into music more or something, then I'll do it. I don't know what I'm gonna be feeling or what makes sense.
So this
But if I wake up one day and I say I need to run for higher office, then
Yeah.
I'll do it. But right now, I would not do it.
So this is not a forever job for you.
No, and I don't think it should be for anybody.
You spoke to the New Yorker about your own identity, and you said, quote, "I had a ton of anti-Blackness ingrained in me." How did that manifest itself?
I grew up really in kind of more of a Latino household, going to Hialeah, Miami, like all the time. And people know, like in the Latino culture and world, there is a lot of anti-Blackness and problems with that. And just growing up and hearing comments from, you know, people in Miami, people within my own family who are great people that I know and love, that little by little, I think, you know, I'd have someone would say like, oh, Maxwell's Black. And I was always quick to correct them, say, no, I'm brown. You know what I mean? I didn't want to be Black. It wasn't until like, honestly, later middle school, early high school, that I started to come to terms with my Blackness and understand the culture and the music and the love, and it just, you know, became part of me because it's who I am.
We have covered gun safety extensively at Vice. I wonder what you see as the policy solution to this epidemic that we have in this country.
We need universal background checks. I do believe in an assault weapons ban. I do believe in limiting high-capacity magazines. I think these are common sense reforms that can be done and save lives like that. But we also have to realize most gun violence is actually crimes of condition. People who feel like they can use a gun to get ahead or do what they need to do to feed their family, etc. And so the other side of this should be upping the standard of living in this country to a place where people don't feel the need to use a gun to solve their problems. So when we ensure everybody has health care, dignified wage, they have the resources that they need to tap into the opportunity of this country, they can feed their family, they have a roof over their head, guess what? There'll be less gun violence, there'll be less violence in general. And then the last thing I'll say is around community violence intervention and ensuring that we're giving resources to the community to end violence before it happens, right? There's proactive legislation and there's reactive. What we hear a lot about when these mass shootings happen are reactive legislation. Armed guards at schools. I think upping the standard of living, gun regulation and safety laws are important, and funding communities themselves so that way they can end gun violence before it even happens.
Your Republican colleagues across the aisle say Democrats just want to take away your guns. They're trying to take away your Second Amendment. How can you see yourself working across the aisle on this issue?
Democrats are not looking to go door to door and take people's guns. Like, no one's saying that. But what the Republican Party does a lot, at least their leaders, is they, you know, put up a straw argument. This is one of their wedge issues. This is how they get out their voters. Democrats want to take your guns. They want to take your guns. Universal background checks, they poll great with Republicans and NRA members too, right? And so we're just talking about common sense reform that can help people. I agree with a lot of Republicans will talk about mental health. I agree, we need to destigmatize mental health. We need more money going towards mental health programs. But what we're not about to do is take that and use it to dismiss all the other solutions. We lose 100 lives a day due to gun violence. There's not one solution or one bill that's going to solve this. It has to be a suite. Gun violence, it's an issue, but it's really the symptom of root causes. When we work on those root causes, gun violence will eventually, we'll have a country where we don't have to fear that.
I'm Michael Learmonth, editor-in-chief of Vice News. Too often, traditional news outlets shy away from the real stories and experiences of those living through global conflicts. Not Vice News. Our reporters are on the ground, fearlessly covering the human stories that shape our world. You and millions of others can continue to read, watch, and listen to Vice News for free. But we hope you'll consider making a one-time or ongoing contribution of any size at vice.com/contribute. Every contribution, no matter how big or small, helps support the journalism Vice News brings to you every day. Thank you.